praise their late-night so-called star for doing the same. Look, let me be clear. I don't call for boycotts. I don't call for people to be silenced. I don't want shows canceled. I'm not calling for anyone in the media to be fired. If you think Samantha Bee is an untalented, not funny, bitter, partisan, mindless hack like I do, you have the power. Turn the channel. You don't have to watch her hateful show. Sadly, just one more example of what is a blatant double standard in America. Republicans, conservatives sent to the chopping block, and those on the left, they're given a pass. Here with reaction to all these new developments out of the deep state from the Hill, John Solomon, Fox News contributor, Sarah Carter. John, we start with you. You have a huge story you are about to unfold. I've got some, well, let's just say a preview of coming attractions here. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I'm putting the finishing touches on a column I think will come out tomorrow, and I will reveal two really important things. The efforts to begin targeting and reaching out to Trump campaign officials to gain intelligence on Russia that would ultimately justify the investigation began weeks and maybe months before the FBI had a formal predicate. And that's very important. The rules say you can't use sources until you have a predicated investigation. The predication is July 31st, 2016. My sources and documents that I'll be able to make public tomorrow will show that there were contacts going on by people identified as informers, informants, people who provided information began much, much earlier than July 31st. That's the first part. Second part is, as the investigation was just starting to ramp up, there are internal FBI documents showing FBI agents talking about the White House trying to take over the investigation, fears that the Justice Department was going to leak for political reasons, and their own personal fear.
Slow down. Yeah. When you say the White House, you mean the Obama White House.
Yes.
They were attempting to take over the investigation.
That's what these messages say. The White House is going to be in charge.
These are FBI messages.
Yes.
And we're talking about the Obama White House. How high up are we talking about here?
We don't know. The text messages are just what they are, right? They don't give a lot of detail. They're short and as you would normally see in a text message. But the words, the White House is running this, are clear in the text message, and people will be able to make up their own mind. And here's another thing that's going to be really interesting to people. You just had it in your monologue a little bit about whether President Obama was aggressive enough on Russia. The FBI agents who opened this case feared that Barack Obama was weak on national security and wouldn't do what they needed for Russia. You're going to see those messages tomorrow, and I think people will be able to see those in between those bookend events.
These are struck page texts?
Some of them are struck page texts, some are other documents.
And there's about to be, am I wrong, a cascading flow of information when the IG report comes out. Let me bring Sarah into this part.
Yeah, 400 pages.
Right. That the IG is going to release, and it will immediately be followed up by good people in the FBI and in the intelligence community that will corroborate and confirm this was rigged, this investigation into Hillary Clinton. Sarah.
Yes, there are a number of people that are ready to speak, a number of FBI agents that are currently working in the Bureau, and other former agents who want to tell the truth about what was going on. I mean, Sean, we know what happened at the higher levels on the 7th floor of the FBI, the highest officials, but there are so many agents within the Bureau that were disgusted by what happened. I mean, I reported over and over again, I know John has too, that agents were so angered when Comey made this decision, a decision he shouldn't have made, by the way. It should have been left up to the Department of Justice, that they literally got up from their desks in some field offices, left their offices and didn't return until the next week. Other agents were throwing food at the television at Comey. So, I mean, there are a lot of people that are ready to talk. They're ready to talk about what happened. It just depends on if Congress calls them to testify, and I think that's very important.
John, you're talking about the timeline being off, and you're talking about documents within the FBI that bring this right to the Obama White House. Correct?
Yeah. Well, certainly the suggestion that the White House and the Justice Department, the political elements of the administration, were trying to intrude on the FBI investigation. People will read these messages and they'll see for themselves tomorrow. But that is clearly one of the things that the whistleblowers who approach me were able to lead me to.
And you'll be back tomorrow. Sarah will give you the last word tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, and another quick point. John's very, very accurate on that. I mean, I believe John Brennan would have known all of this. There were a lot of other high-level officials would have known what was going on in a counterintelligence investigation, particularly one involving a campaign.
We'll see you both here tomorrow with this big breaking story. It's percolating as we predicted. When we come back, the great one, Mark Levin, taking on Congressman Trey Gowdy for his defense.
Right. Welcome to the Patriot Hour. All right. All right, welcome to the Patriot Hour. Had some technical difficulties there because I didn't have a button pushed in. All right, so big things happening, folks. Well, first off, if you're new to the channel, welcome. I am Michael. It's 56518. This is the Patriot Hour update. We're kind of going to go over some new things that are unfolding in front of us. We will check in any new QAnon, Q clearance, breadcrumbs drops. All right, so we just heard there is 400-page IG report, folks. 400-page IG report. It's gonna be a bombshell. Hopefully they did good work, and we can trust this guy like we've been told or have seen. I think they got this all wrong. I think the bombshell's been right in front of us. I think I'm pretty sure on this channel, I'm going back through. I'm going to be doing it later after this video and just later until I find it, that Trump opened this investigation. And I'm pretty sure back in March of 17, one of the first things he did was start the Russia meddling or election meddling, whatever it was called. We had some kind of signed document, and he started it. And that has been reported on very little. It is now turned into he's been doing all these things to obstruct it, because when he opened it, you probably wouldn't do that if you knew you've done nothing. A lot of the bad people that were trying to shove people into his campaign to do dirty things and just make bad things happen around him, they expected Hillary to win. So this would never be looked at. Now that she didn't win, it's become this huge shove and say everything that we did on them. And they just spun it in the media, hoping that they would sometime along this path get Trump outed. And that hasn't worked. The investigations were opened by the very person that everyone thinks did something. But honestly, they've been looking at everything. An investigation will lead them everywhere. So that's why Trump did that. If you truly have bad people, most likely the evidence and trails will lead back to them. So they never expected it to get to this level. They might have been promised by certain people that the investigation will turn out to lead to him anyway. So interesting games and little psyops going on between themselves. They're finding out now, we just heard in that video, there was no predicate to even start this investigation. We've heard that multiple times. Oh, it was the dossier, or no, it wasn't, by multiple different people. Clapper, Comey, Brennan, all these guys. So Trump started it. Why? Think about that. Obama's White House, Obama opened the intelligence across the boards as well, as we know, on his outgoing, he didn't do it while he was in for 8 years, but right before he left, he opened the floodgates for the way that intel works, folks. And if you don't know this, it's compartmentalization, certain people, certain groups, certain agencies. Being past military myself, looking into this the last few weeks, months, just doing some research, the military intelligence through all this, the last several years, any of these bad so-called actors get in, these presidents that end up on the they're been paid so much by certain groups that they basically work for them. They're gonna team up with the CIA, NSA, and do what they can there. The military, they're a little bit more patriotic. These guys got in. They're a little bit more, they're not gonna typically work real well with them. Now, the military intelligence has much more intelligence than what NSA and CIA have. Anytime there's a co-op or a group, you can read books, declassified stuff. Some of the people have talked about this, that the CIA will end up on the scene. they'll want to know everything that the military knows and take notes, but then if the military tries to get something out of them, they won't share. Oh, we don't got nothing, or we can't share that with you, but we need to know everything you know. So it's always a fight for information. Military's got a little bit more budget protocol, or history behind it, and typically that's how it works. As far as so Trump has aligned himself with these people, not so much the civilian agencies, and a lot of the people in the civilian agencies are sometimes ex-military that run them, or are just people working there, but typically it's a lot of civilians, and they're a little easier gotten to. So with all that in mind, this whole thing, I've heard people saying, it's feel-good porn, it's too good to be true. I don't believe anyone is here to save us from ourselves, or to give things back. Well, if you look at the Constitution, it talks about if our government ever becomes too overpowering, this tyrannical, if it's not a government of the people anymore, it's not about the people, for the people, but it's about themselves, lining their own pockets, that it should be taken back, restarted, and, the way it was meant to be. So keeping that in mind, with everything going on, it's gotten so big, our government, right? We got so many angles, so many federal, local, state police, and any normal man that would try to do that on his own, I've in my head played this out, would be deemed a, somebody against the state, or a terrorist. And really quickly, the media, with which they control, blast your face, show you pumping gas the last time you were pumping it, and this guy is wanted, he's deemed a threat. You wouldn't have much of a, chance. This would take somebody to have to be president, and have access to the things they have access to. And there's lots of interesting things when you start digging to the power that the president has, and has he deemed any agencies to be, the heads of them, to be very corrupt. They can shut down whole agencies. They're operating in a way that people just don't get. And if you're working with the military intelligence, and the way I believe this all to be, and what I've dug into, is that 4 or 5, 6 years ago, maybe a little shorter, maybe a little longer, that these good embedded military generals came up with this whole story, how to do this. They saw atrocities with the Bush, into the Clinton, or into the Obama, and they were ready to make a move then. But with the way it was working in the media, how they was portraying everything, it would have been public outcry. You don't see these people doing any crimes on the TV, or even hearing about them. So if people behind the scenes are seeing something and then arrest happened, people just riot, outcry. They got plan B's and C's, these bad actors in place. So it would take very, very smart, well thought out plan. So that is how, if it's not now, if it's in the Constitution, that's the way it has to happen. And people are like, I don't think it's Trump. Well, maybe it's not Trump. He was selected. They at this point in the U.S., you have to be famous to be president. You have to have lots of money. If you're just a normal Joe, you're not going to get the prop up. You're not, unless you have tons of money. But even at that point, you're not going to be propped up by the media. So they needed somebody that was already kind of famous, had money, so he couldn't be bought. Wasn't really looking for that. And maybe years ago, they pitched this story to Trump in a way like Q's giving it to others. It's not really, classified information being handed down, anything to be illegal. But they went to him, cut a deal, said they needed somebody that they can, they would help tremendously guide all this. And they've been working on the plan. They might have sent him in the story goes that they sent him into the right path, kind of like Q, and took him down this same rabbit hole. And he didn't stop for the next 3-4 years until it became time to slide into the position to start running. So supposedly Trump's done all of this research, and it enticed him. He probably knew a lot, but that really dialed it in. So we know that Obama opened up these intelligence committees on his way out to blend it, to have lots more agencies be able to see lots more things. And what did we have right after that? After Obama left, we had a leak a day, dang near the whole first year of Trump's first year in, damn near a leak a day from these. And it wasn't from the military intelligence. It was either going to be, NSA, CIA, or some of these other agencies. So that was his first year. As far as, again, just to touch on it, Q, is it a PSYOP? Is CNN a PSYOP? There's tons of PSYOPs, folks. And Q could be almost considered a PSYOP, but is it a good PSYOP? Is it one that is actually giving you truth the whole time? And it's still set up in the format of a PSYOP? Possibly. Doesn't matter. We said we're going to read them here on this platform at the Patriot Hour, so we're going to keep reading them. We also said, or in the intelligence communities, this is how you would do it. You can't just get one piece of information and, oh, yep, that's it. It's 100% right. I'm going to run with it. You have to look at tons of information and cipher through, digest, and understand the bad angle, the lie, and then maybe the truth, or you can get to the truth. So that is part of you got to look at lots of stuff and then be able to, chew the meat and spit out the bone. Yeah, you have to. You cannot ever just go with what you like to hear. Sometimes you got to hear the opposition. I like to hear, when the presidential campaign was going, there was tons of times I watched highlights and some of the Hillary before it was Trump and Hillary on the stage. When she was doing the Democratic side, just like Trump was on the Republican. So I would watch that. Why are you watching that? Why do you watch CNN? I don't watch it full 24 hours all day long. No. But you tune in here and there and you hear what they're saying over there. That's just how it works. So when you're trying to cipher through bunches of information, getting good intel, you're going to go through a whole bunch of bad. So then you get better at seeing what the truth is. That's how it works, folks. All right, so let's see here. All right, let's jump to the queue. Do an update. This has been up for a while. I don't think there's anything since yesterday. Boom, boom, boom. A week to remember, dark to light, blackout necessary. Q 14. What is that? 1440 in the series, I believe. Yeah, 1440. All right, and everyone pointed out it's an upside down gun. Boom, boom, boom. A week to remember, dark to light, blackout necessary. Q. So upside down. Looks like a gun. All right, Donald J. Trump Twitter account. Read a few of these here. Lots of them this morning. Now they have a theory on that. Donald J. Does he tweet himself? I guess evidently he does. Early morning ones would probably most likely be him. They talk about 10, 11. He starts his daily routine, which he has lots going on, and that he leaves things written down on paper as a gifs of what he wants to have be said. So sometimes there are his aides tweeting out for him throughout the day. But typically late evenings or early mornings will be him. And you can kind of see the change sometimes. The aides have gotten better at sounding kind of like him. But all right, so let's go back here. In high crime California, be sure to get out and vote for Republican John Cox for governor. He will make a big difference. Get the vote out. Messed that up. Get the vote out. Get the vote out in California today for Rep. Kevin McCarthy and all the great GOP candidates for Congress. Keep our country out of the hands of high tax, high crime Nancy Pelosi. here we go, 7 hours ago. Vote for Congressman Devin Nunes, a true American patriot, the likes of which are rarely seen in our modern day world. He truly loves our country and deserves everyone's support. So he's got a lot of, get out there and vote for Roger Wicker of Mississippi. Terrific new book out by the wonderful Harris Faulkner, 9 Rules of Engagement. Harris shares lessons from a military family. The historic recessions package we've proposed would cut $15 trillion in wasteful spending. We're getting our government back on track. LOL, tell that to your budget you recently signed. People are trolling. Rescissions. Yeah, so it's rescissions package, the historic rescission. Imagine how much wasteful spending we'd save if we didn't have Chuck and Nancy standing in our way. For years, Democrats in Congress have depleted our military and busted our budgets on needles spending. And to what end? No more. So calling out Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, I don't blame them. These people have been around way too long. They're really, really rich. If you look at like Devin Nunes, I think his annual salary there in D.C. is probably $150, $160 a year, which is equivalent to 80, 90 grand in some of these other areas. The cost of living is tremendous there. So that's a really just moderate amount for that area. Probably has a family. And they said his net worth is like 60 or 70 grand right now. That's all he has saved up. He does have like a little winery. I mean, that's nothing to do with, what he does there in D.C. You have a little winery. You sell some fruits or whatever it is. I don't know what's going on, but and you look at like Pelosi, who plays to the poor, and we gotta get them propped up, and they've been in power all these years, 20 years. They were screaming this, and nothing's better. They've gotten richer. I mean, you look at her and her husband; they own like 12 houses, and she made like $80 million last year. It's just ridiculous. Don't quote me on that number. I'm just spitting it out. It might be much less, but we're talking millions and millions, folks. And you look at like the deals that her husband's received and what the kind of career he has. That's not her, but it's him. And it's the same thing you see with like Clinton and Bill, Hillary and Bill. He was going over here, and then shortly after a State Department thing would have to be signed, and they do it, but only after money was dropped and hit their foundation. And then he was paid, $500,000 for speaking. All that has stopped the minute she lost power. All of it. They ain't receiving nothing. The foundation's like shut down. People have quit giving. It's crazy. So only when they were getting ready to roll into the next little phase of dills. And these people were going along with it all over the world because that was now the norm. If you didn't do it, you got nothing. So people aren't standing for the old norms. Times are changing, and it's because people are waking up like you out there, patriots, true patriots, the people in our military, tons of good people in the rank and files of the FBI, CIA, all these 3-letter acronym names, agencies. We're not bashing them. We're just talking about the bad people. They know who they are, what they were doing, and we got it all. We know about it. It's going down. These 35,000 plus indictments. I think last year the total was, it's an average of like 1,100 a year. We're at, seeing like 5,000 a month. So there's no denying that. What's it about? People have tons of concerns, questions. We all do. And that is just typical in a military operation. This isn't a movie. It's taken 50, 60 years to get to where we're at. Last person to really try, possibly JFK. Duped everybody, got in, won. watched things happen for a short amount of time and then was going to expose it all, and was shutting down the Federal Reserve, going to give the money back to the people. And a certain group of people didn't like that. He didn't have all the protections in play. What we're seeing here possibly is protections in play, everything thought out, everything in the past looked at, and they have it all. So we might be witnessing something, and that's what I get into a little bit of my own hope or just opinion here for you, but I will do this, and I don't pitch it too much. We just try to stick to the facts on this show, but it is written to be this way. And if it's not now, when? And if it's not Trump or these good patriots embedded into the military, and people think, if it's got to be a normal man. We can look at history books and see through all great times, there was always people that rose up and did great things. So we can't be fools to think that this might not be happening. This is exactly how it would have to happen. It would have to be the president. You'd have to have the military. You'd have to have a bunch of good patriots surrounding you, people with the intel, people with the knowledge, people with the know-how. And, there's been no arrests. People are screaming. Well, typically, yes, you'll go around as people commit crimes. You could arrest one by one by one. But in this case, if it was embedded like this, they needed to cut off the head of the snake all at once, because can't arrest this person and that person around the other people that are right there that might need to be arrested. Things start going haywire. This is a well-developed thing to get them all at once. That way nobody could hit a panic button. You pretty much get them all, and it shuts it down. There's lots of unwittingly people that are involved, low level. They only take orders. We know how that works. Taking out the head should do great things. Again, folks, this is how it would have to happen. If not now, is it another 100 years down the road and it's going to be some Superman guy? It would still have to be a human, a person, a man, a woman, and this would be exactly how it would have to work. So is it, feel good info? Is it just too good to be true? It does sound like that, and I can get why. Nobody's ever going to do that. Well, it's written that way to be done that way. This whole, if you look at, previous wars, even the one to get into, the Revolutionary and, 1776. So in 1773, and the war started in 1776, we're signing things in the Constitution. And they thought about all this, that way down the road it can get really bad, and it would take, they only needed like 11%, 15% of the population to know and understand things. And that's what we're getting here with all this information. It's spreading. People are waking up to it. But you really only need a small portion, 10%, 15% of your population to understand. They could have done this in a much, much different way before all this even started, which is what's so cool about it. Is I would sit there and think, wow, I knew how bad things were. I've known all the little facets and angles, the satanic rituals, the spirit cooking, all these crazy, crazy things, folks, that every bit of investigative research I've done always led to a path of that, back to these people, and just more tricked than us. These people, these 1%ers, they're being duped, led down, build up the spy grid, do all these things, get cameras everywhere. Why? It's for a bigger purpose, and they're being guided, and they're just more tricked. So you get into all that, and of course, this would take a person with a bunch of help, a well-devised plan that's been being thought about and tweaked and looked at and finally put into action. So is it all, going 100% as they planned? Maybe not. There's probably been some curveballs that have come up, and but still in the scheme of things, I thought it would take 20 years of good presidents back to back to back to back to fix it. Well, that's my thinking a couple years ago. Now I'm seeing this one. It's like, wow, it could take about 2 years. We come up on this November, and everyone's like, well, not this and that. What's going to happen? Well, it's not a movie. It's real life. If it all is true to the max, it's military. It's patriots. It's thought out. You need to go around, you need to expose. And that's what they're doing. This whole investigation, when the IG report comes, I believe, and here soon with other things, it's going to show the investigations led right back to these same people that were screaming the loudest. It's going to implicate them all. It's going to expose them all. And we're going to be able to take down a lot of people based off political actions and treasonous stuff that's really bad. And a lot of that other stuff they partake in won't even really matter, even though it really does. But that'll be the choice to know for others. There's other things they're involved in. You want to look at it. You look into the Patriot Act, the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, the Patriot Act. They have this authorization. If the president, some of his executive orders that have been signed, dead silence. The reason for that is the things that you can find if you're finding treasonous acts by the head of these agencies, or that you can shut them down in full. You have the right, the power, and you're operating in a little different the military is prepped up. And he said that we have the most advanced military right now. They're operating in ways they never have. And that is true. Military tribunals is coming, folks. It's there's no doubt about it. These people have committed just treasonous acts against our country that can't be imagined. Selling us out, doing what's best for these other people and themselves, all based on just some money. So it's never enough. It never will be enough. And everyone wants to point at Trump when he was coming in. And it's like, well, he already has this money. He could have already been doing all these things. He just, for some reason, was one of the few that had not. They needed somebody that was a good actor or TV worthy. They knew he kind of, the media liked him up until the minute he ran. He was 11 successful seasons on The Apprentice. Just a good background, and maybe not the most perfect person, because nobody is. But when they went to him several years ago, I think that's when he made a change. He started looking into things daily, spending hours doing it, hired people, changed his life up. Because if you do look into things, he's gotten rid of TVs in his personal home 4, 5, 6 years ago or something. They don't allow iPads and devices in there. They've taken things back. So who knows what he's done in his personal life, even since this Stormy Daniels 11 years ago or whatever. You can judge him on that. You're not supposed to. I don't. I'm judging him now, not even really judging, just keeping an eye on him, making sure he's doing things by the Constitution. So if you look, there have been some, there's just things that all add up to be that he started this investigation. The media was so hell-bent on not hearing it that they've spun it into this where we feel like Trump doesn't want the investigation to be going on. I mean, yeah, there's starting to point fingers towards him, or did things to raid and kicking doors here and there. He's screamed out. He's acting like he's now finding out about FBI people being shoved in to his campaign. Were they there to look at him? Or were they there to look at these other bad people that were put in by maybe the opposing party that were trying to cause trouble? So they were there watching. So we don't know. Trump's worked with the FBI in the past on a casino where he went to them early on, had them come in, acts funny. It's an ongoing investigation. You're not allowed to talk about it. And that was happening a lot in the last, early during the election. That wasn't Trump's administration yet, but there's a lot of things being talked about that Hillary was under investigation. It should have never been talked about. So all these leaks, misinformation, the media's got it all wrong, I believe. So they're going to be eating their words. I don't know how they're going to spin out of this one. They're going to act like they were confused. But it's funny that people like us can figure it out, but they can't, and they're the experts. So careful who you follow. That goes for mainstream as well. Take it with a grain of salt. Again, there's a lot of people jumping off board with the Q, and that is fine. We don't need to talk about them, hate them. That's fine. Some people I still watch. It's fine. They just don't believe in this aspect. Now, when I do start turning it off is they're done with Q, but they spend their whole show, every show for here on out, talking about Q and how it's not right. and wrong. And they for some reason they gain their support, and now they feel like, man, all these people need to know until maybe comments keep coming on their channels. But it's just funny if they're done with Q that they're going forward, but not, and they're spending their whole thing on how Q isn't true. And that's not really moving forward or giving you any more news now. They're just pissed that, some people are still maybe watching Q and then coming to their channel and they can't sleep right, or is it an agenda? That's where you got to be careful. Or is it just truly them just hell-bent that they spent a few months reading something? You can't go wrong, folks. If you, like I said, if you're of this community of sorts at all, some military folks, probably get it a little bit more. You can never have too much information. You don't want to overload and read a bunch of junk, but there's no way at all that all of this is junk. Some of it might not be, if it turns out to be a total thing, psyop of sorts, and that's just for those that want to hear that. The information and articles that it would lead you to were real, and it wasn't. I would be able to, determine this is all garbage, and it can't go on forever because they're telling us things that are going to happen, and it just cannot be stretched out. We're not going to be following this for 10 years or 5 years or even much longer. Things are starting to unfold now. In the short scheme of things, 6-8 months, a year and a half, 2 years, even if somebody was able to do this in their 4 years, get it all wiped out and taken care of and done right and rehanded back, and more involvement from the people and just a better kind of society, that is huge. 4 years in the scheme of things is a blink of an eye. So again, a lot of us are in this era of quick, fast food, fast phones and internet and movies, and they're waiting for the twist, the plot, the rest, just the hero at the end, jumping up and down. Unfortunately, this isn't a movie. There might be a movie made about it one day that you can bundle up and watch in 2 hours, but this, being that it's real, look at some of these wars that they make movies about bundled into 2 hours, but the wars take 7 years, 8 years. It's a vast system. It's been in play for a while, folks. You got to keep that in mind. And patience is key. You got to trust these experts, the good military intelligence, high-ranking generals with the information. Trump's probably been heightened with his intel. The president's under certain circumstances and things going on like now, you can have access to everything. If the president wants to find out, he's going to be able to get all the information that he wants. It's almost, there's nothing really, other than it says, typically like personal records. He couldn't go to the IRS and demand, some civilians, I want to see his tax returns and his records and, census stuff. So that's like one thing that's off limits, but honestly, it's like they probably could get that if they wanted, but it says it clearly that's one of the things that he couldn't do and demand, personal people's stuff. And so other than that, pretty much everything. So it's just all stuff to keep in mind. And I just wanted to share that, guys, with you there. So there's a little bit of my own input in how I'm thinking this is all unfolding and what I'm seeing. I have not seen anything so misleading in the Q post over these last several months of reading them and putting it together with news, going to articles that I would read anyway. Maybe I wouldn't have ever got to that article had it not been for this. So we're not in any wrong. It's information. You got to look at it. Whether or not I don't live and sleep for it. Like, I don't follow any information like that. I'm still really weary, and I keep my radars on, and but that's why. He said, we'll read this to the end, and supposedly there is an end date, June 11th, possibly, I think, right? We all saw that date, so June 11th. I think there were some posts before or with that about a Sky event. Who knows? I'm not really big into dates. but this one could be a little different. It's not so much a, prophesize. It's not a, Y2K, Mayan 2012 calendar. It's some of these other dates that have come and gone. This is somebody possibly saying 6/11, so it's, more apt to be true. Whether it's information or not real sure, we're all digging into it. There's tons of chitter chatter about it, so do your research. If you guys got any answers, post below. We love the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Really gets everything going. Again, that's been one of the biggest pleasures starting this whole Patriot Hour channel, is just the comments, the feedback, the support. So we really, really appreciate it. Again, just drop us a comment down there if you know anything or have some good ideas or links to articles or other videos about, maybe what's coming up or what, others have concluded. Seth Rich, Sky event, information. I've heard, some of these indictments. I've heard a lot of these indictments have already been served. I don't know. I know that they, one thing has been leading to another. We got, Allison Mack singing like a bird. That might have led to tons of other, Keith Ramirez. Those are just a few of those out of that angle. I would believe if, the FBI got into Trump's thing and they were looking at all angles because he started it, well, that would have been beforehand. So I guess I get confused even. He started the investigation after he was, after January 20th, I believe it was in March. It was one of the first things he did, started this whole investigation. And then since then, they probably would have found out a lot of these things. Maybe he didn't know about the FBI in his party. He's acting really funny about it. But then again, I wouldn't put it past him to be acting, because he did go along with it and let it happen. And they have all this evidence against the other people, and they were just digging deeper to get more and more. The media wouldn't know about this unless there was leaks. It looks like a lot of the leaks have been tied up, and they're just running with the story that they want to run with, which is possibly 100% wrong. And we're going to get this, well, we found nothing over here. What we did find was boom, 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 and just all this stuff. And people can't be mad. Well, my God, I thought it was going to lead on to Trump. And well, investigations lead to where investigations lead to. And by the way, Trump opened it and started it. Why would somebody that had all this dirt and ties with it do that? Everyone wanted to point fingers, and they were just trying to use it during the election. It didn't stick. He won, and they were screaming it louder. Well, hell, I'll open an investigation into it. We'll see where this leads. And it's not leading to him. And I don't know necessarily if this is leading all to Russia. It's going to be leading to Democratic, DNC, people from the Republican side even that were, deep state. This is deep state stuff. So you can't even really say Democratic. You just got to say deep state. People that have no ties, crosses all boundaries, and they work together behind the scenes. They look like separate people that don't like each other on TV only. So, all right, I'm going to wrap this up. We're hitting the 40-minute mark, so I almost did a full Patriot Hour video myself. Again, we try to do like a nice hour-long video a week with the Patriot Hour. My updates are anywhere from 5 to 10 to 20. Here tonight at 40. So, appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe, ring the bell, that we get notified anytime we put out an update video. Some of this is, the most important update of your life. You're going to get information, things that are breaking, and, some of the highest intelligence gathering that we can get, disseminated, digested, and then put out to you guys in a manner that we can get it to you. So that's what we're about here, fighting for freedom, liberty, keeping that, preserving it, and truth. So we appreciate it. I'm Mike. This is a Patriot Hour. We will see you back here real soon. Next update video. Again, drop a comment, like, share, and God bless, Godspeed, and have a great evening. And we'll see you back here real soon.